Hello everyone, welcome to China. I'm David. In this video, we're going to talk about China's arbitrary detention and sentence over Canadian and Australian citizens. We'll discuss Canada's reactions in particular and why it should deeply concern every single one of us. Here's the timeline of a series of events. In December 2018, Canadian authorities arrested Meng Wanzhou, the CFO of Huawei, on the request of the United States. Just a few days after it, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor were detained by Chinese government with the excuse of endangering their national security. China claimed that the detention had nothing to do with Meng Wanzhou's arrest, but at the same time demanded the immediate release of Meng. 1 month later, in January 2019, China sentenced another Canadian, Robert Schellenberg, to death for drug smuggling. The problem is, his original sentence made in November 2018 was 15-year jail time, but China said it was too lenient and changed to death sentence right after the arrest of Meng Wanzhou. Earlier this month, an Australian man was sentenced to death by China again for drug smuggling. It's believed to be the consequence of an event in May where Australia called for an independent inquiry into the origins of the virus, which, by the way, was supported by 122 countries around the world. The most recent series of events started on May 27th. In the ruling of the Supreme Court of British Columbia, Canada, the judge said Meng Wanzhou's case met the standard for double criminality, and thus the extradition hearing would be allowed to continue. Not surprisingly, China reacted by formally charging two Michaels with spying. When Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, accused Beijing of arbitrary detention and sentence, here's the response from China, quote, "China urges the relevant Canadian leader to earnestly respect the spirit of the rule of law, respect China's judicial sovereignty, and stop making irresponsible remarks," unquote. It sounds funny to me when a CCP official mentions the term rule of law. Their rule of law doesn't even allow the two Michaels to meet a lawyer, let alone guarantee them a fair and open trial. What concerned me the most was the following piece of news. A group of 19 high-profile Canadians, including former foreign affairs ministers, penned a letter to Trudeau saying incumbent justice ministers should intervene to free Meng. They added, quote, "We believe that the two Michaels will remain in their Chinese prison cells until Meng is free to return to China," unquote. It immediately reminded me of Neville Chamberlain and his politics of appeasement towards Adolf Hitler. Apparently, these 19 high-profile Canadians haven't understood the essence of Communist Party. I lived in China for almost 20 years and have dealt with many Chinese officials. I realized their ultimate goal is to destroy the freedom and to rule the world. Communism is just a left-wing version of fascism, as described in the book The Naked Communist by W. Cleon Skousen. To achieve the goal of ruling the world, the leader of Communist Party needs the total annihilation of all opposition, the downfall of all existing governments, all economies, and all societies. After that, the leader needs to create a new kind of human being, that is, the party members whose minds are criminally conditioned. According to Skousen, these party members do not respond the way normal people expect, so Skousen used a simple metaphor for us to understand. Imagine a well-meaning person invites a professional criminal into his home for dinner. Instead of being grateful for the sincerity and friendship of the host, the criminal is actually interested in the silverware and shiny goblets. He will further conclude that his host is not only soft-hearted, but soft-headed, and he will believe such a weak man cannot possibly deserve so many fine things. Eventually, the criminal will spend the rest of the evening figuring out how he can return in the darkness of the night and relieve his host of all his bounteous treasures. CCP is exactly the criminal in the story. They've been keeping abusing the U.S. friendship and generosity for the last 40 years. Instead of being grateful for the opportunity of getting access to advanced technology and international market, CCP has been doing all sorts of dirty deeds such as IP theft, breach of contracts, denial of Sino-British Joint Declaration, etc., etc. Back to the case of the two Michaels. If Canadian government were to save them by freeing Meng Wanzhou, not only would it lead to a bigger problem of interfering in justice independence, but also demonstrate to CCP that they can achieve any political goal by taking Canadians as hostages. Luckily, yesterday, Trudeau rejected the calls to release Meng and stopped the possibility that would put all Canadian citizens in grave danger. I'm with Trudeau on not doing what's wrong, but I also hope he could take active actions on fighting against Chinese government. CCP charged and sentenced Western people with crimes they might not even commit, but Western governments never prosecuted any CCP member for their crime against humanity they've been doing all the time. Right now, Americans have Global Magnitsky Act, Canadians have Justice for Victims of Corrupt Foreign Officials Act, and I believe the world would definitely be a better place if politicians could do something with these acts. The idea of China regarding Canada as a pushover made me upset. Yes, Canadians are polite, gentle, and easygoing, but we're no pushover, and can never be bullied, especially when it comes to freedom. During the Second World War, there was actually no battle in Canada. 1.1 million Canadians went to Europe and fought against fascists. That was 10% of the whole Canadian population then. Yes, we need a prime minister who's a gentleman, but we also need a leader like Winston Churchill who will fight against totalitarianism in the darkest hour. Well, that's all for today. Thanks very much for watching. I will see you next time.